right, guys, something you have to know in wrestling is drills. Wrestling is so much about drills. Live wrestling's a part of it, and competition, and the strength and the weights, and maybe even get a couple of runs in. Largely, 90% of a wrestling practice, which will make up 90% of your wrestling lives, is drills. And some you have to know how to do on your own. There's plenty of days. You might go in the garage, you got a little mat out there, or you'll pop into the wrestling room, you don't have a partner, you just turn the radio on. These are great moments and great memories in wrestling. You can get a workout in on your own. If you're really lucky, particularly that morning workout, I'm talking about that one that you go the extra. Not when the coach is there and it's practice time. I'm talking about that extra workout. At most, you will have one partner. You'll call them up, you'll get a friend on the phone, hey, can you meet me, 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, are you free? 10 a.m. tomorrow morning before class, whatever the situation might be. But you need to know how to go in and get a workout on your own, whether it's two guys or even if it's just one guy. Very effective drill in combat. And you'll see boxers do it. You'll see boxers shadow boxing. Very common, but wrestlers do it too. They just shadow wrestle. They come into the room, turn the heater on, they'll turn a radio on, and they'll get in the zone. And all of a sudden, they're picturing themselves in front of their opponent. They'll picture themselves wrestling off. They're picturing themselves shaking hands with somebody and going at it. But the keys to wrestling is only a couple of things. First off is position. The fundamentals of wrestling, guys, you know how many basics there are of wrestling? Officially, 7. There are 7 basics of wrestling, but you have to practice them every single day. You have to practice moving your feet. You have to practice your reaction of not only shooting with that rockover step, but hitting a sprawl. Not only hitting a sprawl, but coming back to your feet and firing another shot. You need to see your opponent in front of you. And when you're shadow wrestling, it should never, ever, 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 ever look like this. Ever! Not for 1 single second. Those feet need to be moving. Your feet need to be moving. If you need to catch your wind, your feet are still moving while you're doing it. Your knees are still bent. Your hands are still cut. Not this. You're not shadow wrestling if you're doing 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 this. You got to be in position. Your knees got to be bent. Your head has to be up. Your hips have to be in. And your hands have to be ready to cover your knees. If at any point a coach tells you to put your hands straight and you do, and you cannot touch the mat, you're too high. If a coach ever tells you to put your, so you want to test yourself. You want to check yourself all the time. Oh my goodness, I got to bend my knees. Whoa, I got to really bend my knees. That's when you know you're in a good wrestling stance. If at any time you can put your hand straight and touch the mat, you're low enough. And at any time you put a hand straight and you can't touch the mat, you're not low enough. So I'm going to use my partner here, top ranked. Austin, by the way, happens to be a national champion in wrestling. He knows something about shadow wrestling. Austin, if you could just give us 15 or 20 seconds. Watch this guy. First thing he's doing is moving. He's building his pace. He just got to the workout room. It's one of the first things he's doing. This isn't a sprint. This is just a visualization exercise. It's about 5 more seconds. Austin, look, he's pulling his opponent. He's looking for foot sweeps. He's low to the mat. He's always set him up good. Time. Thank you very much. Let's see, he's constantly moving. And that's really what wrestling means, guys. I want you to make sure you understand this concept. If I was to ask you guys, hey, what's wrestling? I have a feeling you would tell me how wrestling is scored. I have a feeling you would tell me, well, I did some of that when I was a little kid. We had this uniform we had to put on called a singlet. No. Tell me what wrestling is. Well, if you get on top of a guy, they'll give you 2 points. And if you get his shoulders down, they could call it a pin. No. Not asking you what the rules are. I'm asking you what is wrestling. Now, let me answer the question for you. Wrestling means to move. It doesn't mean anything else. The rules, the uniforms, the weight classes, the shoes, they all came in later. Wrestling means to move. If you are moving, you are wrestling. If you are not moving, you are not wrestling. You will hear coaches in your corner yelling to you, wrestle, 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 when you're out there trying to. And you're thinking to yourself, Coach, could you be a little more descriptive? Should I attack the left leg? Should I attack the right leg? Should I pull on the head? And coaches just yell, wrestle, wrestle. What he means is move. He's seeing you slow down. Whether that's fatigue or a lack of discipline, he's seeing your feet not light. He's seeing your arms not moving and attacking. He's seeing you're not changing elevation and trying to get to your opponent. Wrestling at its base means to move. Now, if practice just started, what Austin just did for us is what you should very first do. Right when you get there, you move around a little bit, you shadow wrestle at your own pace. You start to get your heart rate up. You start to get warm. Finally, you're going to come in with a partner. Okay? And when you come in with a partner, the very first thing you're going to do is get to positions. but we're not going to finish. We're not going super hard or super fast. We're working into this a little bit. So we'll go what's called 1-and-1. Meaning I'm going to do one move and then Austin's going to do one move. Not a super high pace, and we don't go all the way to the mat. It would look something like this. We would come out, I'd find my opponent, oh, there's a shot. Oh, I'm in good position. I come back out, now he pulls the head, good position. Neither one of us is getting taken down to the mat and smashed in until our bodies get nice and warm. So that's called 1-and-1. Once that gets going, and you start to get a little used to it, we're going to go what's called 2-and-2, which means I'm going to do 2 attacks. While I'm doing this, I'm never going to break contact with Austin. When it's his turn to go, I need to be a good partner, but he doesn't break contact with me. Here's what I'm talking about. We're in here, I'm moving, I get to my attack, I come back up, I get to my attack now. As I'm looking for my second, this is how I move him. My hands never break. I'm constantly keeping pressure on him. I go into my second, my hands never leave him. He's right here, now it's his turn. He pulls, he attacks, now his hands don't leave me. Right here, I got to turn and face him. Right here, he comes back in. Good. That's how you drill. We don't do this. Oh boy, I took my shirt out. Okay, let's start. No, we don't do that. Not once we start drilling. Once we start drilling, we don't leave our position. The whole time, we're working on our shape and our condition, which includes the strength in our legs, which includes that we can hold this position at all times, which includes that we're low enough that we can reach the mat. You have to drill this. You have to work on this. So whether you're going 1-and-1, whether you're shadow wrestling, whether you're going 2 or 2, you're always thinking about the conditioning. You're always thinking about drilling, making sure you're wrestling, which doesn't mean scoring. It means moving. All right, guys, so you got into the room. Maybe you're by yourself, you got a partner, you turn the radio on, you start with some shadow wrestling. Always a great way to warm up, and you're always testing your sweat. Once you start sweating on your face, that means you're starting to get warm, okay? Then you go with a partner, you go 1, he goes 1, you don't even finish, but you maintain your position. Then you go 2 apiece. Now you are finishing and you're also not breaking contact. Ultimately, you're going to work in what I call flow wrestling, play wrestling, or sparring, as they call it. Which means this may look like we're wrestling, but we're not. He's going to always, chael really wants something here. Let me give him a little resistance, but make sure chael succeeds. Then it's Austin's turn. I go, okay, I can see what he's trying to do, but let me offer him a piece or 2 of resistance and then make sure that he succeeds. But we don't ever break contact. We're not going full speed. We're not worried about letting our opponent score. We want our partner basically to have as many scores and points as we have. We're kind of going back and forth. But we're getting our heart rate up. We're getting that sweat going, and we're getting ready to get into live wrestling. So when I talk about whether you want to call it flow wrestling, sparring, or play wrestling, as Chael Sanderson likes to call it, basically it's just a lot of movement. It's a lot of attacks. Every time I'm attacking, my partner is going to offer me at least 1 piece of resistance. He might offer me 2 or 3 pieces of resistance, but he's going to allow me to work through them to ultimately get to a controlling position, at which point we don't break and stand back up. We continue the flow. We continue from there. So a lot of times in drilling, okay, let's drill top wrestling. Okay, great, let's drill bottom wrestling. Okay, let's drill neutral, takedown wrestling. No, in sparring, it's just going to be one continuous motion with an emphasis on position, an emphasis on a high amount of attacks, and your partner making sure that there's some give and take. So without any talking, if we were nice and warm to kind of get into the final step of warm up, it would look something along these lines. notice, we never broke contact. It never got out of control. It wasn't an emphasis on defense. The emphasis is letting your partner work, score, but forcing him to move at all times. All right, great drill is called hand replaces foot drill. You can do this one on your own as part of your shadow wrestling, but you're always going to have a lead leg. And your lead leg in wrestling is really what you need to protect, okay? Now, first way you're going to do that is you're never going to reach with your lead leg hand. So this is my lead leg. This hand, for no reason, is ever going to reach. I'm not coming to the armpit. I'm not coming to the collar. If he fakes me, I'm not reaching with this hand. This hand stays down. It's got to protect this leg. Now, the back leg hand can reach. I can take a few more risks because that leg's further away. It's largely protected just because it's stashed. It's just hard to get to. He's going to need to fake me. He's going to need to get me to take my lead leg out of the way, making this my lead leg. Or he's going to need to pull me in some direction before he can attack. So the first thing I want to do just on the most basic of level is just always keep my hand protecting this lead leg, okay? Great drill to do. Hand replaces foot. So when I do need to take that foot away, my hand replaces it, or the opposite hand replaces it. Okay, one of these two hands, as that foot disappears, takes its place. The way that will work in wrestling, if we go nice and slow here, if Austin shoots a high crotch, so he's going to come across the body, I'm just going to put that hand down. I'm going to bring my own hand in between his. So if he's attacking with this arm right here, I'm bringing my hand down. Now as he comes up to his feet, right here's my underhook and I'm coming back down. Okay, very important to understand in this drill. Anytime I'm going to re-attack, I'm going to wait until my opponent reaches his maximum height. Okay, I know where he's going to be. I know when he's going to return. Once he reaches his height, that's when I change elevation and go under. So one more time. Hand is going to replace foot right here. It comes inside once he reaches his height. That's when I come down. His only other option is to make this his attack hand, in which case I will use my same side hand to replace my foot. So Austin comes in for a single, go right ahead. I bring this hand down. As I bring it up, I'm looking to come knee pick. Right here. I'm looking to run him down with a knee pick. So this is a great drill. We're going to do it a little bit faster. So first he'll shoot a high crotch, then he'll go into a single, and I'm just going to respond. It's called hand replaces foot. It's something that you're going to begin practicing in your shadow wrestling right here. Every time that foot leaves, one of the hands goes where it was. For a high crotch, we come into an underhook. When my opponent gains his elevation, I come underneath him. For a single, we come to an underhook. We go right into our knee pick. All right, guys, so a few more really great drills to do, but first it's called a swing single, okay? There's straight on singles that you guys have probably seen, but a swing single, your body's gonna swing around a little bit more. The back leg's gonna turn, it's gonna change where your hips go, and it's very important. An easy way to do this, I'm gonna be a good partner. I'm just gonna stand up. I'm offering both of my legs, and Austin's gonna come into a swing single. When he gets done, he's gonna switch legs. Go ahead, and he's just swing. But notice how his back foot, notice the swing. One more time, Austin. Notice the swing of the back foot. Keep going, please. Notice the swing. That's what we call this a swing single. Stay right there. Now look where he's at. He's got a whole new angle on me. Okay, it's totally different than coming on straight onto the hip. So this is what we call a swing single. Now, another good drill, if Austin goes back down, he can start in on a high crotch. What we just call a concrete high crotch, okay? His head is up, his chest is high, his hips are in. He's in a good, strong position here. From here, he's going to transition to a double leg, and I'm just letting him do it. He's moving his body to a double leg. Now he's going to go to the far side to a single. So he just has to move his body slightly, but he's always keeping his head up. He's always keeping his shoulders in good position. Good, strong back, and the hips are in. Now he can go right back to a double if he'd like. Okay, he drives his knee in between. Now he goes back to a high crotch. Do you see the difference here? You see if he can move and work in these positions. It's a very common wrestling technique. Another very common one to work on changing your elevation for like a low single drill would be, I'm just going to stand up. I'm going to protect my groin, if that's okay to say. And he's going to shoot a low single. It's going to right between my legs. So I'm going to stand up, and he's just going to shoot between my legs. So he's really got to get his elevation down. He comes back through. He's really got to get his elevation down. And he's looking to go quick. But notice how he's got to drop. He's got to drop his chest to his knee. There's a lot of movement there. But these are drills that he and I can come in to a workout room, to a garage, to a living room, wherever you have a mat, and we can get our own workout without having a coach. We're always then going to go, Austin, if you wouldn't mind, to Granby drills. We're just going to practice these on our own. So if Austin were down, and he's going to imagine that I'm on top, and he's just going to step his legs out and go right into his Granby. Go ahead. Step, step, right into his Granby. Okay, this again is something that he can do on his own and without a coach. You're always going to be in a room, and you want to hit about 20 or 30 of these a day, but it's a stand-up drill. Now, if Austin has a partner, I can come on top of him. I'm not going to offer any resistance, and he's just going to stand up and cut away all the way to his feet. Go ahead. Turn, it cuts away, and now we just go right back down. He goes right back down. We really want to do these repetitively, because always in combat, particularly in wrestling, we're always working on endurance. We're always working on muscle memory. So I don't want to give him a whole lot of breaks. I want to keep his heart rate going. Just have him keep standing up and going through the same motions. Have him keep burning the same muscles over and over. After we get these in, we're going to go to the opposite, which is mat returns. I'll do this one. And again, I want to do this for 10. So if Austin's on his feet, I'm going to do this for 10. Whatever my returns are. If it's step around and lift, if it's step around and block, if it's to just cut back, if it's to hit a double where he starts to get his hips away, then I turn the front and run it down. But I want to do these in 10s. I do 10 and then he does 10. That gives me a breather. That lets me be a good partner. But it also forces the offensive man to get a lot of repetitions. One of the basic rules of wrestling is pummeling, and there's a lot of different ways to do it. Fundamental pummeling, something you should work on every day, but it will look like this. We're in what we call an over-under tie. Grapplers will often call this a 50-50. The reason is we're dead even. I've got an overhook, I've got an underhook. He's got an overhook, he's got an underhook. We're even. So an over-under or a 50-50 because there's no advantage. Now, what we always want in a grappling situation is two underhooks. This is the ultimate position. The problem is, as I start to come in to dig for this underhook, that's called pummeling. But if he pummels with me, guess what happens? We're right back to even. We're just on the other side. So this is the big game here. And that's okay as long as you're used to it. Because if Austin tries to get greedy and get two underhooks, which means he digs it over here, he's going to get it unless I pummel. Now also notice when we pummel, our underhook leg is going to always step forward. So now if we just work together and we're pummeling, it's a little dance because you will see our feet start to move. Now as we get warmed up and we start doing this a little bit harder, but it's still, we're just moving. Okay, I'm trying to get the advantage on him, so I'm trying to pummel one arm inside, so he's got to now do it on the other side. As we do that, we switch. This is called the pummel drill. But this is very important, and this is all part of hand fighting, right? Even if we were in the open, a great drill before we even start attacking one another's legs, or we're jumping on each other's heads, or we're even trying to score, is we just start right in here with each other's hands. And we're down in here fighting. We're looking for head position. We're looking for head position. We're trying to get each other's hands. It's getting a little grimy in here. We're starting to get our heart rate up. And we're just pushing. We haven't even attacked each other's legs. But we're getting used to that battle. We're getting used to constantly looking for that battle. And it's really important. Hand fighting is so important on the mat or on the ground. And you've always got your simple techniques. Austin gets a hold of me and I roll, towards the thumb, or I roll away from the thumb if I want to get away. You guys have heard of all this stuff. But then you get the real fancy guys that come in and they clear a wrist with their leg, right? Or they bring their outside leg and they chop down. But this is important. It's important that I have his hand and he doesn't have my hand, or I have two hands on one of his hands. And I never let him have two hands on one of mine. So this is something that we drill. And all the while, we're looking for head position. Coaches, I don't feel, ever explain to their athletes, what does head position mean? So let me just tell you guys really fast. If I take my forehead and I put it on the side of Austin's head, I have head position. So as I'm battling here, if I can ever get here and turn an angle, I now have head position. I'm looking at him while he's looking away. Okay? So while we're hand fighting, we're also thinking about head position. So we're in here, we're fighting hands. Oh, I'm looking for head position. Now Austin's going to fight hands. He's going to get head. Oh, now he's got head position. But notice all he has. Austin, one more time. All he has for head position is his forehead is looking at the side of my face. I'm weak right now. I can't see him. I can't attack him. My head's kinked. I've lost a lot of my strength. I need to get that back, which means I need to get head position. Or if he's in there, I'm going to have to roll it the other way to get head position. But that's what we're talking about. We're talking about putting your forehead in the side of your opponent's head. Look for head position while hand fighting with your partner. All right, guys. So many times, okay, whenever we drill, we're always thinking about offense, and I want to encourage you to keep doing that. Offense is so important. The guys that go out and attack, those are the guys that are fun to watch. Those are the guys that do really well. The other side of the coin is defense. And defense doesn't just come. You don't only want to work on defense in a live situation, into practice and hard goes, or on Saturday night in front of all your friends and family in an actual competition. You got to drill defense. To do that, you just need to communicate with your partner. Okay? If I want to work some single leg defense and I don't feel that Austin is grabbing me in enough single legs, I'm going to just switch sides to your pass partner. If I feel like it, I just tell him. I'll just come in, I'll just slap my leg. That'll be the cue, and he knows to grab a single. Boom, he knows. Great drill to do is that he's just going to move me from here without even trying to finish. Go ahead, Austin. He's just going to move me. What this is forcing me to do is keep my side width, my balance. It's forcing me to hop on this leg and know where I am. The number one key to defense, guys, is balance. The number one thing he's trying to do, and he's got a lot of techniques to do it, but it's to off-balance me. So I need to work on my balance. I need to work on my defense. If I want to go into a kick out, I want to make sure that Austin has my leg. I want to make sure that I get my leg in the right position and that I'm kicking out. If I want to go into a 3 in a row, I need him to have my leg so that I can come into my different techniques. Okay? If I want to just do baseline defense, I'm going to give him my leg to shoot, and I'm going to start to sprawl. Come down to the mat and get behind. But defense is just as important that you work on. And I will see a number of guys, when they're wrestling, they just flat don't want to be in some spots. They try to avoid those spots. I would encourage you guys. By strategy, I've got no problem with that. If there's a spot you don't want to be in, avoid it, great. But when you're in the practice room and points don't count, make sure you force it. If you don't like over-under positions, don't be afraid to tell your partner, we're going to go 30 seconds from here. We're going to start in the over-under. Neither one of us is going to break this position. You agree? I agree. Okay, 1, 2, 3, go. And then we start wrestling. We're just going to wrestle from here. And if I don't like this, this would be common. This would be common. But no, we're practicing. We're doing drills, so we're going to just agree to stay in here. We're going to spend 30 seconds in this position, trying to score, trying to step in, trying to trip, trying to throw. We're going to spend some time in these spots. And that single leg drill, this is a really great one for any sport that you guys want to be in. But I really do like the idea of just moving my partner around. Even right here. This may be a position that you think, I've never seen that in a wrestling match. That's true, but you've seen the fundamentals. You've seen the fact that now we're working on flexibility. You've seen the fact that Austin's got to get strength in that one leg, and you see the fact that he needs balance. So I'm going to push him, and I'm going to pull, and I'm going to lift the leg, and I'm going to lower the leg. This is a great drill. This is something you should incorporate every day as part of your warm-up or as part of your cool-down. It doesn't have to be a specific wrestling technique, but it needs to be a specific wrestling idea. All right, bear with us, guys. We're just finishing up. 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. That was 5 minutes. Whew, that's something you want to work on. That's just called a wall sit. Okay, great way to finish practice. Kind of the last thing you want to do because there's a real burn. We're feeling a little bit. Sometimes coaches will use it as a punishment, but it's so important to be able to bend your knees in wrestling. I can't stress this enough. Both when we're talking about the drilling, we're talking about the shadow wrestling, even with the wall sets. There has to be a strength in your legs, and it doesn't need to be a power that you can go and squat some enormous amount of weight, or you can pull an airplane with a rope. There needs to be an endurance, a strength through endurance, where you can hold that position through the duration of a practice, which can be up to 2 hours long, or the duration of a competition, which could be closer to 7 and even 6 minutes long. But it's very important to get that lactic acid buildup in your legs. I just wanted to stress that, guys, to you. A couple other things that you can do on the wall. Okay, and it's very important to be able to work out on your own. Sometimes you're going to come in the mornings. You're going to get a workout on your own without a partner, without a coach. But also, it's kind of important to be the last one out of the room. After practice gets done and guys cool down, you bring it in, you do your team chant, you get the instructions from your coach and a little pat on the back. You also want to stick around, get a couple more reps of something. Let the teammates head to the locker room first. You want that mental edge that you were the last one off the mat. A great drill you can do is what we call a swing single drill on the wall. If Austin here, he's in a good position, he's looking at the wall as the opponent, he changes elevation to shoot the swing single. And notice how his back leg swings around. That's the swing single part. Austin, one more time, please. But this is a great drill on the wall, and you'll know you're done when you hear your foot, boom, kick that wall. One more time. And what he's doing here is just what we were working on earlier. If he wanted to hit a swing single on me, if we're wrestling each other, it's this exact same motion, but he's got to swing that leg around. See how he swings that leg around? Look at the problem if I turn towards you guys. Hit one more, please, Austin. Look at the problem this does for me defensively. Okay, defensive, 101 defense is I have to cover his head with my hips. I got to now get to his head. He's making me redirect my entire body. It's just a big problem. Swing singles are a big problem. Very simple. Same effort, same work as a regular straight-on single. He's just swinging that leg around. He's changing his hips. He's changing the angle, which changes my baseline defense. One more final wall drill that I think you guys might appreciate, and a great thing to do at the end of practice, but it's just a stand-up drill on the wall. If you don't have a partner to push into, you can go right up next to the wall. Go ahead, Oscar. Turn, and then right there. And he turns and cuts away. One more time. So he's in referee's position. He springs up, so his shoulders are on the wall, and he cuts away. One more time, please. Freeze, right here. Guys, please notice, it's his shoulders on the wall, not his hips. Not his hips. He's not resting his hips. We don't ever want to be here, because that means our opponent has our hips. He's pushing his hips away. These are his opponent's hands. He's extending them. He turns, cuts away, and faces up. Right back into good position. Right back to his knees bent position. Here's the exercise he's working on. Exact same thing, but he did it without a partner. Okay, if he's on top of me, this is how it will look. A stand up, a cutaway, turn and face your opponent. He doesn't have a partner. He uses the wall instead. One more time if you could. I just want to make sure you guys can really see what's happening here. This is just the same as if you have a partner. Stands up, cuts away, turn and faces him. Excellent drill to make sure you get 10 of these each day before you hit the showers. It's really important, guys. There's a lot of parts to wrestling, and so many times we focus on the legs, and that's a really important part. But one of the reasons we focus on it is we don't properly know how to train the throws. Okay, a couple of things, a couple of rules of wrestling. If you're ever going to train the throws, you have to take care of your partner. Okay, you want to make sure that he can trust you and that he will come in and allow you to practice your throws again tomorrow. So for the most part, look, if you're ever doing a throw, take an arm throw, by the way, that goes down to your knees, it's going to be okay. But if you're doing an amplitude throw, you've got to take your partner in consideration. You want to be able to do that slowly. You want to be able to focus on your technique. Let's start with an arm throw. If I want to do an arm throw, I'm going to give a signal to my partner, such as, grab me with a collar tie. I'm now going to drop to my knees right here, and I'm bringing them over in one piece. Nice and gentle. We come back to our feet. I'm dropping down to my knees right here. I'm bringing them over. I want to hit a whole bunch of reps. We're just going to come right back up. I'm going to keep giving them the same signal, and I'm going to keep going into my arm throws. If I'm looking to pick it up a little bit, okay, if I want to start to get into some body lock positions, a great way to do this, because the emphasis that I really need here is just to feel the timing and feel of his body. I don't need for him to go flying to the air and crashing down to the mat. So one way I can just drill my throws is to get my hips through, right here. If I can just get my hips right here, I've done the technique, right here. It's very easy to pop and throw them through the air, but I want to treat my partner that way. I want to be real careful so that I can practice these kinds of things. Same thing would go for like a body lock or a head and arm situation. I can practice it like coming right here. As soon as my hips go through, that's the whole key. I need to get my hips, they're so powerful now. Boom, I can just pop. Boom, I can just pop them through. But this is the key. Okay, so if we're in here and I want to practice something like that, and I stop and I come right back out. Okay, body lock would be the same way. Maybe I would step into a body lock, but I don't have to throw him. Body lock could be the same way, but I don't have to throw him. I can just get into these good positions. If I'm doing a head and arm, okay, this is something, the hips aren't near as important, guys. We've talked about this, but I want you to see the hips aren't near as important as the control of the head. I'm really punching him with my bicep. I am never squeezing him and holding him like he's a little brother. Never with a head and arm. What the kids call a headlock. Inappropriately call a headlock. It's a head and arm. I'm hitting him with my bicep, but my arm stays open. My arm drives down to the mat like a bulldogger in rodeo. So I'm going to control this position, and I'm looking to come right over. I'm just dragging him down. So my hand stays open. The emphasis is not the head, the emphasis is the arm. As a matter of fact, I could not even have the head, but I could maintain the position just with the arm. The same couldn't be said. I couldn't just come to the head and hold him here. He's going to get out. The arm is the key. So please watch this one more time. Very important, because everybody likes to go to the head and arm, and I don't blame you guys. High percentage technique. But make sure you're doing it correctly. If you step in and you throw everything you've got and you miss, you fall down. Okay? Shouldn't be doing that. I'm dragging him down to the mat in this position. Securing, and now I'm dragging. My hand never comes around his head. I'm just punching him with my bicep. Hand stays open, and I'm sliding it out. Very important when you're doing throws that your partner can trust you. Very important when you take your hips through. One great drill, one other one by the way, if I bring my hips through, is I'm just going to let Austin land all the way on his feet. Right here, pull, he lands on his feet. Turns back and facing me, my turn again. Here, pull, right to his feet. I can do that 5 and 6 and 10 times. Get the feel that he does it 5, 6, 8, 10 times. But neither one of us gets hurt. Low impact while practicing high percentage throws. There's certain rules in wrestling that you guys really need to observe, and we will spend so many days, which turn to weeks, which turn to months, which turn to years, which turn to a career. And you will hear you will hear the same thing 20 years into the sport that you heard on your very first day. But for some reason, you didn't do it, and your coach still has to tell you. Some of those basic rules. Look, guys, if we're ever going to do a collar tie, I need my elbow down. I can tell guys this till I'm blue in the face. They end up doing a collar tie like this. If I do everything right on Austin, right here, I don't really have control of him because my elbow's out. He can attack me. If right there, he can attack me. If I just drop my elbow down like Coach told me to do on my very first day, he's blocked. I'm not only getting a hold of him so I can push and I can pull, now I'm protecting myself. Just by example. Okay, the same thing goes with a wrist. If I grab a wrist, this is a good position. If I grab a reverse wrist, this is a better position. Okay? The same thing goes with an over-under. If you guys are in an over, this is basic body mechanics, but I want you guys to understand it. If you are in an over-under, the thumb of the underhook does not go up. The thumb of the underhook goes down. The reason, you guys should see my elbow moving. You should see my elbow moving. When my thumb is up, my elbow goes down naturally. When my thumb is down, my elbow instantly goes up. And in an over-under position, the key is the under, not the over. So I want to make sure that I'm flaring that underhook, that I'm making him weak and making myself strong so I've got a hole to come through and attack. I can do that by just understanding the concept that the underhook thumb goes down. Same thing happens on a single leg. If I have a single leg, that arm around the leg is going to go on top. This is important. If Austin goes to break my grip here, which is the first thing he's going to do, and he pulls this hand up, he's pulling my hand into him. I've still got him. If my hands are reversed and he pulls my hand up, he gets his leg back. Okay, these are very simple things. They're fundamentals, but they're important. We talked earlier, and I want you guys to remember, a double leg position if I have Austin. If I have Austin, please. This is not a double leg. I see guys going to double legs here all the time. This is not a double leg. Up here on the kidney, you're not on the leg at all, okay? I can live with this because you have both legs at the knees, but this isn't as good. This just gives him mobility. I want to take his mobility away. If I come right under his butt and I lock, I've got him every time. If I can't lock, I'm still in a good position. Down here, I'm going to have to wrestle. The difference with this part of his body is when he goes to sprawl, this part doesn't move. Go ahead and sprawl, Austin. It just doesn't move. His legs move. Go ahead and sprawl, Austin. His legs are still moving. This just doesn't move. So if I secure this, now I don't have to fight. He can't fight me back. I don't have to work because he's not forcing me to work. If I'm down here and he sprawls, go ahead, Austin. Oh, now I got to wrestle. That's okay. I can wrestle, but I have to. Right here, it's not even an option. Go ahead and sprawl. It's just not an option. It just doesn't move. There's just nowhere for it to go. Up here, I'm not on the legs. And if you guys get here and your coach is yelling, your hand's too high, get your hand off his back, don't give up. Don't get frustrated and think, oh, I screwed up the move. Sorry, coach. No, just fix it. If your hands are here and they're not locked, you think, oh, I'm supposed to lock my hands. No problem. Don't give up on the move. Just fix it. But make sure you understand some of the mechanics of this. There's a reason we spend so much time saying it. Austin, if you can stand right in front of me real fast. I want you guys to see the low single. The low single is so important that my forearm is on the mat. This is not the same thing. This is not the same thing. This is not, right here. If you guys can't get here, if you end up close, don't think, I screwed it up, sorry coach. No, fix it. Just drop your hand and fix it. But it's important from a leverage standpoint that I am blocking him at his heel. That I have a hold of that shoe. That my pinky is on the mat. These are very important parts of the body. I will see the same thing, guys. And I will say it till I'm blue in the face about collar ties. Coming and grabbing Austin by this big and strongest part of his neck. I think I could hang on his neck. However, same position, but now I scoot my hand more towards his hair. All of a sudden, I'll get him real tired real fast. This is close. But if we fix it by 3 inches, now we can start to get him tired and weak. When we're going to this work, when we're going to practice, when we're listening to our coaches, I want to remind you, because I know your coaches are telling you this. I know your coaches have already told you this. But the human mind, and I'm guilty of it too, in fairness, but the human mind, we think we know better. We think, well, I know coach said go to the elbow, but the forearm is right by the elbow, good enough. I know coach said go to the fingers, but the wrist is right by the fingers, that's good enough. Guys, save yourself some time. When coach says go to the fingers, go to the fingers. When coach says go to the ankle, go to the ankle. You've got to listen to your coaches. A proper warm-up will always include in this sport. We always want to do some kind of tumbling and some type of gymnastics. And I not only want to talk to you young athletes that want to get into this, but you guys are going to become parents, and you're going to have nieces and nephews, and they're going to turn to you. And they're going to want you to show them a little bit about wrestling. One of the best ways to serve them is to make sure you also introduce them to very light level, but gymnastics. And the reason for this is you are always going to leave the ground in this sport against your will. But it is your job, both as coaches and athletes, it's your job to make sure you return to the mat in one piece. I'm talking about coming up in the air, not having any arms because your opponent trapped it, and knowing to tuck your chin. Forward rolls are so important. I mean, we'll always start a warm-up. Austin, if you could just show us a basic somersault or forward roll, if you just hit a couple for the crowd here. But this is just a very important forward roll. He's in one piece. We're listening, okay, as coaches. We want to make sure that it's soft, that his body's not coming down like that. We want to make sure he's controlling his body, because there's going to be times in the sport against his will, he's going to have to. Now, if we were to hit a diving forward roll. The correct way to do a diving forward roll, guys, is we really want to dive out, not up. We're looking to cover distance and return to the earth, if you will, in one piece. Austin, please. Notice he dives out and catches himself. Guys, out to catch and break his balance. Another beautiful. Cartwheels, do you know cartwheels?
Cartwheels,
well, let's take a look at a cartwheel. Cartwheels are a great one too, and these are real basic. I want you guys not to look at this and say, oh, that's silly, I know how to do that. I trust that you do. I just want to remind you to work on them. These are very important. Ultimately, you'll get up to where you're walking on your hands. And walking on your hands is important. Before Austin does this, not only does this work on your balance and strength, and I love that, but guys, at some point, he's going to fall. At some point, you're going to fall. The key is, when you fall forward and you fall into a roll. This is what we want young wrestlers and grapplers, fighters to learn. When you fall forward, you tuck your chin and you fall into a roll. Austin, can you show us? Oh, look at this guy. That's beautiful. And he falls forward and he falls into a roll. You guys notice that? This is very important whenever you're doing this. A couple of more drills. I'll tag in for it. I'll give you a little rest. You walked on your hands. What a beautiful job, by the way. But another thing, guys, you want to work on your rock over steps. Okay? Rock over step. I've heard this called a duck walk, but it was initially called a rock over step. And all it is a penetration step. So in wrestling, when we're in our stance, okay, we always want to have a setup of some sort. We want to reach up and like we're slapping the guy in the head, or we want to have an R drag. We want to have some kind of motion. We want to have our feet move. But ultimately, we're going to change elevation, but we're going to penetrate and come back up to our feet. Okay, from here, my feet are still moving. I'm still moving. I still see an opponent in front of me. I'm going to rock over. I'm going to come back up to my feet. This is something you have to work on every single day. Your coach is probably going to force you to sprawl. But when you sprawl, you've got to do it the right way. Okay? A sprawl is not a burpee or a mountain climber exercise. Oh, I just sprawled. No. That's not a sprawl. Sprawl, the hips goes down. You circle and come back up to your feet. This is not a sprawl. Though it's a lot better. A correct sprawl, we circle, and come back up to our feet. Okay? In a live situation, if Austin was to shoot and I was to sprawl right here, I've got a circle. As we come back up to our feet, go ahead and come up to your feet. Now I've got an angle. Now I can attack. Okay? So I always want to sprawl, circle, come back up to my feet. Sprawl, circle, back to my feet. These are great drills. This is how you warm up for wrestling. This is how you become a great wrestler. It's not all about banging on an opponent and lifting weights and running. Those are all elements of it. But keeping your body safe, understanding control, understand leaving the ground on your own because your opponent put you there, and knowing how to return, tucking your chin in a ball and feeling good at the end of the day. These are important things. Don't overlook them in your careers of wrestling. Guys, congratulations. You finished the course. You did great. Take this knowledge with you. I appreciate you watching. I appreciate being one of the top draws around here. I appreciate you guys demanding that I come back. I'm here for you. But I did make a deal with the men who taught me when I were young. I never paid those guys a penny. They wouldn't accept my money. But they did say, Chael, we're going to teach you something. And we expect when you grow up that you teach it to somebody else. So this is me fulfilling my end of that obligation. But guys, now I want to make the same deal with you. I will pass this to you, but you must pass it to somebody else. In this sport and in this life, we pay these kinds of things forward. There's not a lot of money in this business, and there does not need to be, but we pass this knowledge on. That's something special. I went through a lot of hard times, a lot of hard experience, a lot of sacrifice to get this knowledge. And I got it from guys who went through hard times and hard experiences to get this knowledge. And now I want you to show it to somebody else. And in the world of today's technology, that becomes easier and easier to do, but it's just as important. Please, when you watch these things, understand the emphasis that I was trying to make. Emphasis on position, not on speed. Emphasis on position. When you're drilling something, do not stop until you're to the right position. If you don't feel you're in that right position, slow it down, take an extra second or two. Fix where your hand goes. Fix where your positioning goes. Check to make sure your hips are in. Check to make sure your chest is strong and your head is looking across. Talk to your partner. If there's something you want to work, communicate it with them. Stay around after practice. Work on drills. Learn how to warm up properly. Learn how to cool down properly. And above everything, enjoy the sport, guys. There's one thing that I hope that you do. In the sport of wrestling, the sport of combat isn't always fun. But games are supposed to be fun. And ultimately, this is a game. So go out there and play it a little bit. Thanks for tuning in, and I will see you guys next time.